Goparaj Prabhu ki Jai.
You can ignore that last Jai. So today I was asked to actually speak a bit about Lord Shiva. Many of you know, I'm sure all of you know, Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee. So if that is the case, then certainly we have to hear from Lord Shiva. At any rate, we're going to get just a few verses from Srimad Bhagavatam on this subject matter. There's an entire chapter called Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. This is in the 4th canto. So we're going to hear some of those verses. If I'm not mistaken, there's about 45, 48 verses in that chapter, specifically spoken by Lord Shiva. Sri Rudra Uvacha Jitanta Atmavid Bharya Shwastaye Swastir Astume Bhavarat Hasa Radham Sarvasma Atmane Namaha. Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of the all-perfect instructions you give. You are the super soul. Therefore, I offer my obeisance unto you as the supreme living being. This is part of Srila Prabhupada's purport. As soon as a devotee is inspired by the Lord to offer the Lord a prayer, the devotee immediately glorifies the Lord in the beginning by saying, all glories to you, my Lord. The Lord is glorified because he is considered to be the chief of all self-realized souls. As said in the Vedas, the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Supreme Being, the Personality of Godhead, is the chief living being amongst all living beings. So important information there, actually. That is basically why we have the procedures we have when you come in the temple. Who are we glorifying? We're glorifying their lordships. And their lordship's most dear devotees. So this is the set procedure that we follow. And of course, Lord Shiva, being such an exalted personality, he himself is in the mood of a servant. Sometimes it is confused who Lord Shiva is. Some people accept him the same as Krishna. He is the same as Krishna. But you have to understand the distinction. It's a major distinction. So I'm just going to go to the Brahma Samhita for a short bit here. Because in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, in one of his verses, glorifying Krishna, see again, what is he doing? Glorifying Krishna. But in that glorification, he mentions so many things in those verses. Anyway, this one particular verse deals with the nature of Lord Shiva. Shiram yata dahi vikarat vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pritakesti hetu Yashambhutam api tata sampatti karyat Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Translation English. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect, curd, is neither the same as nor different from its cause, that is to say, milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. So that's the key. Lord Shiva has been empowered, and one of his functions, he has many functions, but everything. So that includes everything from stone to bodies. Everything that is material is annihilated at that time and merged back into the supreme existence. That is one function of Lord Shiva. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his purport, he gives some further clarification of this. The real nature of Shambhu, the presiding deity of Maheshdam, is described. Shambhu is not a second Godhead other than Krishna. Those who entertain such discriminating sentiment commit a great offense against the Supreme Lord. The supremacy of Shambhu is subservient to that of Govinda. Hence, they are not really different from each other. The non-distinction is established by the fact that just as milk treated with acid turns into curd, so Godhead becomes a subservient when he himself attains a distinct personality by the addition of a particular element of adulteration. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta often speaks in lofty terminology, but what he's just saying is that Krishna actually doesn't come in contact with anything material. To do that, he has a servant to do that, even when it's his own self that is doing the transformation. So this is the closest thing we can understand this action. When you add some acid to milk, you can get curd, you can make yogurt, it changes. But what happens when that process takes place? Once you change a nice cup of milk into yogurt, can you reverse it? Change it back into milk? Nor will yogurt function exactly as milk. Or if you have some nice curd, sometimes we like curds and subjis and whatnot. But once you have made curd, can it act as milk? Is it the same as milk? No. Comes from milk. There's nothing but milk. But it's been adulterated. Adulterated means, in this sense, it's been changed. Not in the sense that sometimes adulteration means total pollution. But this is adulteration. It's a change. And that, again, is how Lord Shiva functions. That's why he's the greatest devotee, because he's worshiping Krishna. So, back to the subject matter here. This is text number 40. Atarlinga nabase namontar bahir atmane nama punyaya lokaya amusmai buri varchase. My dear Lord, by expanding your transcendental vibrations, you reveal the actual meaning of everything. You are the all-pervading sky within and without, and you are the ultimate goal of pious activities, executed both within this material world and beyond it. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto you. So, Lord Shiva is giving us further details about the nature, the quality of Krishna. Who is Krishna? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vedic evidence is called Shabda Brahma. There are many things which are beyond the perception of our imperfect senses. Yet the authoritative evidence of sound vibration is perfect. For those of you who might be interested in the Tattva Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami expounds this subject matter so that you can walk away completely satisfied. You can understand what this Sabda Brahma is. There's so many sound vibrations in this world, material and sometimes spiritual, but we have to know what is the absolute sound vibration. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. The Vedas, known as Shabda Brahma, because evidence taken from the Vedas constitute the ultimate understanding. This is because Shabda Brahma, or the Vedas, represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, the real essence of Shabda Brahma is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The essence. By vibrating this transcendental sound, the meaning of everything, both material and spiritual, is revealed. This Hare Krishna is non-different from the personality of Godhead. The meaning of everything is received through the air through sound vibration. The vibration may be material or spiritual, but without sound vibration, no one can understand the meaning of anything. In the Vedas, it is clear. In the Vedas, it is said, "Atar bahishchatat sarvam vyapya narayana stita." Narayana is all-pervading, and he exists both within and without. Lord Shiva is therefore praying to the personality of Godhead to be kind to us, so that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we can understand everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. Well, this is a major piece coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, showing us, telling us how we actually can understand everything. In this world, no one would even dare profess to know everything. Some people might have 2 or 3 degrees. Some people might have 4 or 5 even, doctorates. But no one knows everything. Someone might speak 1 language, 2 languages. Someone might speak 5. Someone might speak 12 languages. Anybody here can speak 12 languages fluently? I see no hands today. Once in a while you can get somebody like, but nobody knows every language on this planet. If I set you down in the middle of rural Ethiopia, can you communicate with the people there? No. I can sit you down in the middle of rural Atlanta, Georgia, and I doubt if you can communicate with the people there. Language is key to understanding. But back to the subject matter here, how is that so? Sound vibration, Shabda Brahma. So all of it comes from Krishna. The material sound vibrations we use every day, like good morning, Mary, how are you feeling? It's a material sound vibration. Or we can say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The distinction, obviously, is that if you continue to repeat and vibrate the Maha Mantra, you'll be greatly benefited. Whereas you just keep saying, good morning, Mary, or can I have a soda, or give me a piece of bread. It's just all mundane vibrations. It's not the same. Nor is the subject matter present. That's a big distinction. Because you can say, good morning, Mary, and she's in 2 rooms down the way. She didn't even hear you. But when you chant Hare Krishna, he's immediately there. That's the distinction. But bro, I don't see him. Where is he? He's in the sound vibration. You don't have to see him. Sight, you rely on sight. Can anyone see 2 doors down right now into this other building? You can't. You can only see what's in front of us. We see what? I think it's 180 degrees. That's even that much you can't see that, the peripherals. I don't know what's happening way over here, etc. So you can't rely on the eyes for absolute proof. You can't rely on the ears for absolute proof. You can't rely on any of our 5 material senses. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, when you want to get to the absolute, you have to rely on one thing. Sabda Brahma. Darshanam na digrisunam dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyattam mam swanam sarvedriya ganajanam. Translation: My dear Lord, I wish to see you exactly in the form that your very dear devotees worship. You have many other forms, but I wish to see your form that is especially liked by the devotees. Please be merciful upon me and show me that form, for only that form worshipped by the devotees can perfectly satisfy all the demands of the senses. Beautiful prayer. I know I couldn't come close to expressing what he just expressed. But what is that? What is everyone hankering for? Ultimately, to see Krishna, whether you know it or not. And why are devotees so fortunate? All you got to do is look straight ahead of us. What do we see? We have 3 altars where Krishna is manifested. Those forms are nothing to do with the material world anymore. Does everyone agree, or does someone question that? Someone might say, what are you saying? How can you say that? Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Anyone disagree? We can discuss it. Yeah? That form is not material. Krishna is so merciful that even in the beginning you might take it as material. But even so, you'll still get the blessing. But this is what Lord Shiva is praying for, this type of vision. Shanardena pitulaye na sargam swargam na punar bhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam kim atasita. If one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, he is no longer subject to attraction by the results of karma or jnana. Karma means action and repercussions of what we do in this world. And jnana basically means knowledge, understanding. So he is no longer subject to attraction by the results of that. What does that mean? If you're not attracted, what interest then can he have in the benediction of the demigods who are subject to the laws of birth and death? So if we're on the material plane, we might practice some particular type of philosophical path. But that will still keep us in the realm of the material world. Even if it's very elevated. You can be a very advanced yogi. You can be a very advanced philosopher. But still, it's in the material world. Our interest as devotees is to get beyond it. We don't want one thing that is mentioned here again, birth and death. We want to get away from that. So now you can understand the importance of that statement when he says, for one moment's association. How quick is a moment? Just passed. That's one moment. So if you get that much association with a pure devotee, your material life is going to be dwindling. It's finished. The proof is right in this room. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
He came to America. There was no Vaishnava devotees at that time. Not any. Matter of fact, there wasn't even a real copy of Bhagavad Gita in English, with English translations. But he came, one devotee, with pure motivation. And as a result, here we are in Atlanta, or we can be in Mayapur today, or we can be in New York City, Los Angeles, wherever you go. You can find Hare Krishna temples have spread. Why? One moment's association. What did he do? Those of you who have read some of his biography know that Srila Prabhupada did the same thing we do every day, but he did it as a Vaishnava. People came to hear what he was saying at this storefront. At first, he didn't even have the storefront. He used to sit in Tompkins Square Park. Just sit there and chant. His chanting was not mundane. It affected people. That vibration changed lives. And that's how this movement spread. So one moment's association with a pure devotee is very important. Don't play it down. Pramayatam uchar iti kriya chintaya parvida lobam vishayeshu lalasam tvam aparamatta sabasa bipadyase kul lihano hir ivakum anaka. My dear Lord, all the living entities within this material world are mad after planning for things, and they are always busy with the desire to do this or that. This is due to uncontrollable greed. The greed for material enjoyment is always existing in the living entity, but you, your Lordship, is always alert, and in due course of time, you strike him just as a snake seizes a mouse and very easily swallows him. So this is the nature of time functioning in the material world. Time doesn't care. You may say, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in that. But what happens? When your time is up, just as a snake seizes a mouse, bas, finish. What are you going to do? You can be so proud. You're relying on this crutch. You have something in your psyche that you have to be dependent on someone. Therefore, people invented that the higher beings than God exist. They say like that. They make you think like that. Does the snake of time care for this nonsense? No. So your so-called belief, Srila Prabhupada said belief is actually something that can be changed. Because you can say today, I believe in Christianity. I believe the teachings of Christianity. And then next week you can say, I'm more attracted to the Buddha. I believe in Buddhism. And then the next week you can say, I believe Islamic teachings. You can believe anything. Or you can believe in my college professor. He taught me about this particular thing, that particular thing. You can believe whatever. But that snake is waiting for each one of us. The snake bite of time. So Lord Shiva is praying and showing us how to pray because we want to get out of that clutch. We don't want to be caught unaware. Because in this material world, when the little baby comes, he doesn't come with a note. You have 30 years. You have 200 years. You have 5 days. None of us came with the note of how much time we have. So that's a precarious situation. Maya has arranged for us to forget about that. We don't have to think about that. We don't want to think about death because it sounds so final, so horrible. It's not. Just like today, you have on your nice saris and shirts and pants and dhotis and whatever. And tomorrow you're going to put on something else. Is that horrible? Well, one reason it might be. If you're sitting in a nice human suit today, you don't want to wind up in the suit of a goat or a rat or some other little creature. So if you don't know what's going to happen when you leave, then it's important to find out what to do. That's why Lord Shiva is giving us this prayer. For the sake of time, I'm going to have to just read the English now. My dear sons of the king, just execute your occupational duty as kings with a pure heart. Just chant this prayer, fixing your mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. That will bring you all good fortune, for the Lord will be very much pleased with you. Purport. The prayers offered by Lord Shiva are very authoritative and significant. Simply by offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, one can become perfect, even though engaged in his occupational duty. The real purpose of life is to become a devotee of the Lord. It does not matter where one is situated, whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, American, Englishman, Indian, or so on. One can execute devotional service anywhere and everywhere in the material existence, simply by offering prayers unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is also a prayer, for a prayer addresses the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his name and invokes good fortune by petitioning the Lord to allow one to engage in his devotional service. Now you know why we're vibrating this mantra, the great mantra for deliverance. A devotee who rises early in the morning and with folded hands chants the prayers sung by Lord Shiva and gives facility to others to hear them certainly becomes free from all bondage to fruitive activities. So please read this chapter in the 4th canto, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Not only can you chant those prayers, but as you know, we always have to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Because what are we doing? We're addressing the Supreme. It's an address. So if you're addressing the Supreme, then you're praising the Supreme, as Lord Shiva did in the beginning. And if you praise the Supreme, you get his attention. Just like if I say, Prabhu, that's a beautiful shirt. Can I have it? I don't know. I don't think you want to give it to me. But if I say, Prabhu, I got your attention. So like this, if we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna's he's turning. But imagine you're chanting Hare Krishna and you sort of kind of get going, and then all of a sudden, after about 3 rounds in, it becomes Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Is that going to get Krishna's attention as much as Hare Krishna? If you start to slur what to speak, then if you're slurring, then the mind is wandering. Oh, I got to do this. I got to go wash the dishes. I got to go to work. I got to do this. I'm telling you all of this because I know from experience. This is my japa. It is not japa. The mind is going to wander. You have to stop it. The only way to stop it is not to say, I'm going to stop it. You can't challenge Maya. How are you going to stop it? How can you do anything? You can't. So what do you have to do? Srila Prabhupada says, the chanting of Hare Krishna should be like a child crying for the mother. When the child cries for the mother, it's serious. It needs some attention. Something needs to be done. And immediately the mother is there. Immediately taking care of the child. Totally selfless. So if we pray to Krishna on that plane, like a child crying for the mother, then we'll have success. No problem. So if you can imbibe this, I'm yet to be the example of imbibing the deep process of doing this. I, for one, can say it's not so simple as vibrating your tongue and saying it. You have to actually do it. So if one can engage on that level, one can chant the Maha Mantra very nicely. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Shiva ki jai. So, because Gaura Purnima is coming very rapidly, we have how much time? 2 weeks. 2 weeks left. So we're going to get just a little advanced taste of the nectar of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared some 500 years ago. This is the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela. This 7th chapter, by the way, was extracted many years ago, and Srila Prabhupada had it done in a book called Lord Chaitanya and 5 Features. It's actually the 7th chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela. Anyway, you can read that book separately, or you can certainly study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Agatyeka gatim natva hinnartadika sadakam Sri Chaitanyam likyatesya prema bhakti vadanyata. Someone else would like to chant, please? Is it big enough? Anyone else? I will read the translation. Let me first offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the ultimate goal of life for one bereft of all possessions in this material world, and is the only meaning for one advancing in spiritual life. Thus, let me write about his magnanimous contribution of devotional service and love of Godhead. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Ki Jai. So, as you can see, his expression, Lord Chaitanya is really all we have. It's our only hope in this Kali Yuga. Why did Lord Chaitanya come? We will see shortly. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Sri Krishna Chaitanya Tanhara Charanasita Sebada Danya. Let me offer glorification to the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who has taken shelter of his lotus feet is the most glorious person, most glorified person. Panchatattva avitirna Chaitanya rasange Panchatattva lanya karana sankirtana range. These 5 tattvas incarnate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus the Lord executes his Sankirtan movement with great pleasure. So this is the key to opening this door of these 5 truths, the Pancha Tattva. Pancha means 5, Tattva, truths. So Lord Chaitanya incarnates with that. He's always associating with these 5 truths. Srila Prabhupada says, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the following statement regarding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tvasha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagna Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Sumedasa. In the age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of the Sankirtan Yagna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, his incarnation Sri Advaita Prabhu, his internal potency Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, and his marginal potency Srivas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So there you have it in a nutshell. Maybe you can see this painting. Most of you can see it. According to Balabhadra Prabhu, this was the original deity in Atlanta before deities appeared here. And they had this painting on the altar because they didn't have the actual deity to worship. And so this Panchatattva we see from our left, we see Advaita Acharya, then Lord Nityananda, and in the center is Lord Chaitanya, then Sri Gadadhar, and then Srivas on the very right side. So these are the 5 truths that always accompany Lord Chaitanya. And to actually dive into the nectar, this deep understanding is required. Panchatattva ekavastu nahi kichu veda rasa aswadite tabu vidha viveda. Spiritually, there's no difference between these 5 tattvas, for on the transcendental platform, everything is absolute. Yet there is also variety in the spiritual world. And in order to taste these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. We do not want to become impersonalists, thinking it's all one. Srila Prabhupada says, in his Anubhasya commentary, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes Panchatattva as follows. The supreme energetic, the personality of Godhead, manifesting in order to enjoy 5 kinds of pastimes, appears as the members of the Panchatattva. Actually, there's no distinction between them because they are situated on the absolute platform. But they manifest different spiritual varieties as a challenge to the impersonalists to taste different kinds of spiritual humus, rasas. In the Vedas, it is said, Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. The varieties of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are differently known. From this statement of the Vedas, one can understand that there are eternal varieties of humors or tastes in the spiritual world. Sri Gauranga, Sri Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Sri Gadadhar, and Srivas Thakur are all on the same platform. But in spiritually distinguishing between them, one should understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the form of a devotee. Nityananda Prabhu appears in the form of a devotee's spiritual master. Advaita Prabhu is in the form of a bhakta, a devotee, incarnation. Gadadhar Prabhu is the energy of a bhakta, and Srivas Thakur is a pure devotee. Thus there are spiritual distinctions between them. The Bhakta Rupa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhakta Swarup, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and the Bhakta Avatar, Sri Advaita Prabhu, are described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. His immediate manifestation and His plenary expansion, and they all belong to the Vishnu category. Although the spiritual and marginal energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, they are predominated subjects, whereas Lord Vishnu is the predominator. As such, although they are one on the same platform, they have appeared differently in order to facilitate tasting of transcendental mellows. Actually, however, there is no possibility of one being different from the other, for the worshipper and the worshipable cannot be separated at any stage. On the absolute platform, one cannot be understood without the other. As usual, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta just hits the nail on the head. He just hammers to the absolute point being made, so that you don't walk away not understanding the Panchatattva, and you don't begin to focus and meditate on them in the wrong mood. Yes, they're all one as far as spirituality, but they eternally are separate and distinct because of that one point. The predominator and the one predominated are always different. Krishna is the predominator, and the jiva, topmost, Srimati Radharani, is the predominated. The distinction is always there. It's said at some point Radha and Krishna were one, but they became separate. It facilitates our understanding at some point, because we can't fathom actually how time operates. On this plane where we are, Mrityaloka, this is the place of birth and death. And so that's how we measure time. Everything is measured. We can measure clock beats. Like last night, a group of people decided that it would be beneficial for this country, there's a few others, that we're going to make the time, instead of it being 8 a.m., we're going to make it 9 a.m. Actually, it's a total illusion. But because it's a mass illusion, we're following it, because the so-called authorities dictate that that's what they're doing. There's no such thing as time actually jumping ahead an hour in the spring and then time regressing an hour in the fall. It's an illusion. But when the powers that be come up with these ideas and they implement them, then we follow. We have very little choice. Of course, you can leave your watch set at 9 o'clock instead of 10, and you're going to be in deep trouble because you should have been at work an hour ago, right? So you don't want to do that. So we have to follow the dictates. But back to this point, we want to always understand that distinction. On the spiritual plane, we can't belittle Lord Nityananda and say he's something less than Lord Chaitanya simply because that's his brother. No, there's no distinction on that level. But because Lord Nityananda chooses to serve Lord Chaitanya eternally, that's the distinction we should understand. Pancha Tattva Makam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Vataram Bhaktavyam Namami Bhakta Sankirtam. Let me offer my obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, who has manifested himself in 5 as a devotee, expansion of a devotee, incarnation of a devotee, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Purport: Lord Nityananda Prabhu is the immediate expansion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his brother. He is the personified spiritual bliss of Sakchidananda Vigraha. His body is transcendental and full of ecstasy in devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore called Bhakta Rupa, and the form of a devotee. And Sri Nityananda Prabhu is called Bhakta Swarup, the expansion of a devotee. Sri Advaita Prabhu, the incarnation of a devotee, is Vishnu Tattva and belongs to the same category. There are also different types of bhaktas or devotees on the platform of neutrality, servitude, friendship, parenthood, and conjugal love. Devotees like Sri Damodar, Sri Gadadhar, and Sri Ramananda are different energies. This confirms the Vedic Sutra Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Suryate. All these bhakta subjects taken together constitute Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. So, for the sake of time, we're going to have to move a bit more rapid. Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, the Supreme Controller. No one is greater than or equal to Sri Krishna, yet he appears as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme enjoyer in the rasa dance. He is the leader of the damsels of Braj, and all others are simply his associates. The word rasa vilasi, the enjoyer of the rasa dance, is very important. The rasa dance can be enjoyed only by Sri Krishna because he is the supreme leader and the chief of the damsels of Vrindavan. All others are his devotees and associates. Although no one can compare with Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are many unscrupulous rascals who imitate the rasa dance of Sri Krishna. They are Mayavadis, and people should be wary of them. The rasa dance can be performed only by Sri Krishna and no one else. So this is an extremely important lesson to learn, to pick up, to understand. Only Krishna is the enjoyer. If you really want to enter the mood of the gopis, you will see that the gopis do not try to enjoy. The gopis simply want to please Krishna. If the gopis put on beautiful makeup and flowers in their hair and make themselves as pretty, they're not doing it because they want to see themselves in the mirror. They do it only because they know this will please Krishna. They have no satisfaction that, oh, I look so wonderful. My sari is the best. They're not thinking like that. They want to please Krishna. This is actually entering into the mood of the gopis. So if you want to really please Krishna, you become subservient. As all these examples we just heard, the Panchatattva themselves take the subservient role. You'll hear more about this during the coming weeks. But Lord Chaitanya himself is Krishna, and he took the subservient role as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? I'm going to leave you with a question this week. Any questions other than that question? Yes?
You said there are purity bodies able to deliver the conditioned souls. What can we do? If we're possible to be conscious, what can we do? Be effective? Do we have some potency in order to
I can't.
be able to
Can someone pass that question?
Krishna?
I can't quite distinguish. Can someone reiterate that question? What was it?
You said in the beginning, a pure devotee can deliver a conditioned soul. That is purity, a pure devotee, to get that association. So what can we do? We're not pure.
To purify ourselves.
Purify, but what about what can we do? We're not a pure devotee to help others.
What can we do? Well, Srila Prabhupada has given those basics. Number one, we can just introduce somebody to chanting Hare Krishna. Or number two, we give somebody a book. Books are very, very important. Srila Prabhupada said books are the basis. So to purify yourself just by telling someone to chant Hare Krishna, that's purifying. For you, as a person saying to chant Hare Krishna, and for the person hearing it, chant Hare Krishna. You're becoming purified just by doing that. You may not be, as they would say, 100% at that point, but by doing it, you're going to become 100%. Because it doesn't depend on us, it's beyond us. By giving someone honestly a book, Bhagavad Gita, and saying, please read this Bhagavad Gita, it's a discussion between Krishna and his devotee, Arjuna. You become purified by that vibration, and the person who hears that becomes purified. Both of you will continue to progress as long as you stay in contact with those two things. Reading the books, and hearing about the books, and speaking the books. Like that, you become purified. And of course, one easy way to become purified is to simply honor Krishna Prasadam. Because any of these processes don't require a belief. They don't require any other activity. You simply have to do it. And that is so you can easily honor Prasadam. You might say, well, I don't believe that. I eat every day. It's not the same. If you take prasadam, if you eat prasadam, you'll become purified. If you eat regular food, what the Bhagavad Gita tells you, you're eating only sin. But if you take something as simple as an apple and you offer it to Krishna, you're purified. You take the remnants, you eat the apple. But if you go to, to Kroger's or wherever, grab a bag of apples, throw them in the fridge, and then go grab one and eat it, you want to enjoy it. But if you can remember Krishna, you don't have to be a pure devotee at that point. Just remember, let me offer this apple to Krishna first. That's the beginning. So those are steps one can take to purify and become a pure devotee. We have to stop at this point. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu. What did he say? A little louder.
He offered food to Krishna because he needs food.
Is Krishna eating the food? Yes, because Krishna's senses, his senses are not like ours. We have to actually bite the apple and then we can taste it. Krishna's senses are not like that. He just by looking, he can taste the apple. So if you say, here Krishna, here's an apple, Krishna tastes it, it's already prasadam. That quick. But if you just give me an apple and say, can you bless it? I can't bless it. But if you offer it to Krishna, Krishna can do anything with any, he can actually, if you hear, Krishna can eat with his ear. We can't eat with our ear. Krishna can eat with his nose, his mouth, his eyes, but we can't. We can only eat with the mouth. So you have to remember, is this something I can offer to Krishna? Because you don't want to go to some of these, for lack of a better word, these outside places that cook anything and everything. You don't want to get some dead animal and say this is Krishna. You don't want to give, you want to be nice, just like mommy and daddy are nice to you. They don't give you some rotten food. They give you something very nice. So when we give to Krishna, we have to think, is this the best I can give to Krishna? Like that. Then you become purified also. Thank you. So we'll stop at this point.
Goparaj Prabhu ki
I told you about that.